What if I told you one question meant to embarrass Barack Obama ended up exposing one of the biggest contradictions in America's gun debate? That's exactly what happened in this town hall. And years later, people are still talking about it. Today, we're breaking down every moment, every argument, and why this exchange still divides America. If you believe in facts, common sense, and honest political conversations, you're in the right place. Welcome to Blue Flash. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and turn on notifications because we're bringing you the political stories everyone is talking about.
Why then do you and Hillary want to control and restrict and limit gun manufacturers, gun owners, and the responsible use of guns and ammunition to the rest of us, the good guys, instead of holding the bad guys accountable for their actions? And Mr. President, if I may, I'd like to use Chicago, your hometown, a city that has some of the strictest gun laws in the nation, a city that for decades and still is under Democratic control, a city that has an outrageous and even embarrassing murder rate as my first example. Why can't we round up these thugs, these drug dealers and gang members, and hold them accountable for their actions, or allow the good people in Chicago access to firearms to protect themselves?
Good. All right. Well, let me, it's a multi-part question, so let me just say a couple things. First of all, the notion that I or Hillary or Democrats or whoever you want to choose are hell-bent on taking away folks' guns is just not true. And I don't care how many times the NRA says it. I'm about to leave office. There have been more guns sold since I've been president than just about any time in U.S. history. There are enough guns for every man, woman, and child in this country. And at no point have I ever proposed confiscating guns from responsible gun owners. So it's just not true. What I have said is precisely what you suggested, which is, why don't we treat this like every other thing that we use? We used to have really bad auto fatality rates. The auto fatality rate has actually dropped precipitously, drastically since I was a kid. Why is that? We decided we had seatbelt laws. We decided to have manufacturers put airbags in place. We decided to crack down on drunk driving and texting. We decided to redesign roads so that they were less likely to have a car bank. We studied what is causing these fatalities using science and data and evidence, and then we slowly treated it like the public health problem it was, and it got reduced. We are not allowed to do any of that when it comes to guns because people, if you propose anything, it is suggested that we're trying to wipe away gun rights and impose tyranny and martial law. Do you know that Congress will not allow the Center for Disease Control to study gun violence? They're not allowed to study it because the notion is that by studying it the same way we do with traffic accidents, somehow that's going to lead to everybody's guns being confiscated. When we talked about background checks, if you buy a car, if you want to get a license, first of all, you got to get a license. You have to take a test. People have to know that you know how to drive. You don't have to do any of that with respect to buying a gun. And when we talked about doing effective background checks, it was resisted because the notion was we were going to take your guns away. I just came from a meeting today in the Situation Room in which I've got people who we know have been on ISIL websites, living here in the United States, U.S. citizens, and we're allowed to put them on the no-fly list when it comes to airlines But because of the National Rifle Association, I cannot prohibit those people from buying a gun. This is somebody who is a known ISIL sympathizer, and if he wants to walk in to a gun store or a gun show right now and buy as many weapons as ammo as he can, nothing's prohibiting him from doing that, even though the FBI knows who that person is. So, sir, I just have to say respectfully that there is a way for us to have common sense gun laws. There is a way for us to make sure that lawful, responsible gun owners like yourself are able to use it for sporting, hunting, protecting yourself. But the only way we're going to do that is if we don't have a situation in which anything that is proposed is viewed as some tyrannical destruction of the Second Amendment. And that's how the issue too often gets framed.
The moment this Trump supporter stood up to ask his question, you could already tell where the conversation was headed. He came armed with arguments we've heard countless times over the years. Chicago's crime, Democrats wanting to take away guns, good people versus bad people. It was a familiar set. But what happened next wasn't the shouting match many people expected. Instead, Barack Obama calmly walked through each point one by one. Whether you agree with him or not, that's what made this exchange memorable. The first thing Obama addressed was one of the biggest fears many gun owners have, that Democrats secretly want to confiscate everyone's firearms. His response was simple. He pointed out that during his presidency, gun sales actually increased dramatically. His argument was straightforward. If his administration had truly been trying to eliminate private gun ownership, why did millions of Americans continue purchasing firearms throughout those 8 years? That doesn't automatically settle the debate over gun rights, but it does challenge the idea that widespread confiscation was taking place. Then Obama shifted the conversation towards something much broader. Instead of focusing only on politics, he compared gun violence to automobile safety. Think about that comparison for a moment. Cars are incredibly useful. Millions of Americans depend on them every single day. But because they also have the potential to kill people, society gradually adopted seatbelts, airbags, safer roads, driver's licenses, and tougher laws against drunk driving. Those changes weren't introduced to eliminate cars. They were introduced to reduce preventable deaths. Obama argued that firearms deserve a similar discussion, not one centered on banning ownership, but one centered on reducing unnecessary tragedy. Now, critics immediately point out something important. Owning a firearm is protected by the Second Amendment. Driving a car is considered a licensed privilege. Those are legitimate constitutional differences that deserve serious discussion. But Obama's larger point wasn't about treating the Constitution lightly. It was about asking whether every possible safety proposal should automatically be dismissed before it's even debated. That brings us to one of the most surprising parts of this exchange. Obama highlighted how federal funding for gun violence research had been limited for years. His argument was simple. How can policymakers fully understand a problem if they're discouraged from studying it? Whether someone ultimately supports stricter gun laws or not, research itself isn't legislation. Understanding patterns, causes, and outcomes can help lawmakers make more informed decisions. Perhaps the strongest moment came when Obama discussed suspected ISIS sympathizers. He explained that someone could be considered too dangerous to board an airplane, but still legally purchase firearms under certain circumstances. That raised a difficult question. Should national security concerns affect firearm purchases? Supporters of Obama's position say yes. Opponents argue that government watch lists can contain mistakes and shouldn't override constitutional rights without due process. Both concerns deserve careful consideration. That's exactly why this issue remains one of America's most complicated political debates. What stood out most wasn't simply Obama's answers, it was his tone. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't insult the questioner. He answered point by point. Whether viewers found his arguments convincing is up to them. But conversations like this remind us that complicated issues deserve more than slogans and talking points. At Blue Flash, we believe patriotism means protecting both our freedoms and our communities. Supporting constitutional rights and discussing reasonable public safety measures don't have to be mutually exclusive. Healthy democracies depend on citizens who are willing to listen, challenge ideas respectfully, and demand evidence instead of fear. This debate isn't likely to disappear anytime soon, but exchanges like this show why honest conversations still matter. Now we want to hear from you. Did Obama's arguments convince you? Do you think his comparison between cars and firearms makes sense? Or do you believe the constitutional differences make that comparison fundamentally flawed? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments. The best conversations happen when people disagree without attacking one another. And if you enjoy thoughtful political analysis from every angle, make sure you subscribe to Blue Flash, leave a like, and turn on notifications because we've got many more political breakdowns coming your way. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe to Blue Flash, hit the like button, and ring the notification bell so you never miss our latest political reactions and analysis. Drop your opinion in the comments. We read them all, and respectful debate is always welcome.